a brand new season. There is nothing better than hearing the roar of the engines once again, and the Grand Prix Tour of iRacing brings itself back into life. We are back at the starting place of where it all starts once again. The proverbial home of sim racing, the Nurburgring, is our first port of call. It is 24 races over the course of this year, and by the end of it, there will be one champion come the end of some amazing racing. Welcome to SimSpeed TV's coverage of the opening round. My name is Jake Sperry. Alongside me for the ride is Caitlin Penny. Jay Kennedy on the cameras here. But what an incredible start we are about to have to what is one of the most amazing seasons. It's still the same old Mercedes as last year, Caitlin, but one thing is for certain. This is one championship from top to bottom that you have to be consistent with all year round. There is nothing like it in iRacing.
Oh, absolutely. It is a long, long series. We're going to get to know each other very well over the course of the next 24 race weekends. You can see the championship schedule on your screen right now. Obviously, you have already introduced the Nurburgring, not the full Nordschleife. I think we've missed out on a trick there, but there you go. And we go to some familiar circuits and some quite unusual ones. Obviously, we follow the Grand Prix calendar when we can, so we go to Suzuka, for example, Montreal, Barcelona, all the way through the European calendar. But we also go to some quite unusual circuits that you don't see on many Grand Prix calendars, such as, for example, Virginia International Raceway, where we will be next week, and of course, Phillip Island. There's never been Grand Prix machinery on Phillip Island, as far as I am aware. But that is, of course, one of the delights of sim racing, that we can do whatever the heck we want. The championship ends, of course, in the Hockenheim Ring after a couple of rounds that don't follow the Grand Prix calendar, Portimao, Magny-Cours, Hockenheim. And at the end of that, I'm sure there will be some smiley faces and some disappointed, disgruntled drivers. But that's the fun of a championship, Jake.
There absolutely is. And this is where we zoom on down. Thanks to Google Earth, we will look for the Nürburgring here, right in the bottom left corner of Germany. You can see, or middle left, I should say, halfway there between Frankfurt and Co. As you dive on in, it's a long way from the airport, but this is the circuit of circuits, just that Grand Prix layout, as we mentioned, but one incredible layout that you get out there. An opportunity above opportunities today. That Vidal chicane is going to be really important. 13 and 14, that's the main overtaking opportunity out there. The other one is using that Yokohama S that leads through that AMG arena. Over 30,000 virtual fans are situated there at this moment in time. And of course, this is one where you've got two DRS activation zones over the course of racing today. One just before the Ravenel left-hand bend, the other one just before that Hyundai N corner there, which gets itself sorted. That Hyundai N corner is going to be so important, and those two overtaking opportunities are going to be so crucial to determining who is going to win this race, Caitlin.
Absolutely, and another thing that's going to be crucial is that first corner. It's a very tight one here, and there is pretty much always some degree of carnage, no matter what championship you're part of. These drivers, of course, very, very good, well-versed in the iRacing world. But as you can see with that first corner there, there's a little bit of a kink in the braking zone. Drivers try some strange dummy maneuvers down there, no matter what the lap is and no matter where in the race they are. And yeah, that's one that can really separate the alert from the asleep, especially at the start of the race, Jake.
Yes, it absolutely can. Let's take a look at what happened last year and get a look at how that all played out. This was the season opener last year as well, and it was an incredible showcase of driving ability that got the victory for Matteo Ugolotti ahead of Ben Fuller. And then in third position overall, Anthony Catt. That's how it all stacked up. There was some great racing up and down the order. Jordan Gronkowski, 43 seconds adrift, and Marcel Fassbender nearly a minute back. It's not often that you get to see that in terms of effort. So that's the focus that they will have when it comes to their racing? Can they improve on where they were 1 year ago? We already have some breaking news, though, Caitlin. Right as we hit the end of qualifying, the final 40 seconds left, champion of last season, Jacob Reed, hits the blue screen, and because of his technical issues, he can't get himself into server, and he will not participate in the opening round of the championship.
Yeah, it's a massive shame. Jacob is, as I was saying before we started, the only driver in this field who I have ever personally raced. And I know firsthand that he is extremely quick, and of course demonstrated that last season by showing all of his pro ability. But yes, unfortunately, you do have to be in the server at the top of the hour, and racing doesn't wait. You know, that's kind of the point of it.
Absolutely is. Checkered flag has just flown in qualifying. The grid is about to fly up on your screen. Darren Parker with a fantastic qualifying time, a 1:28.449. He'll have Eduardo Radice alongside for company on the front row of the grid. Walter Lux will start from third, and Adam Webb with a storming qualifying. He goes from fourth position. Ken Nielsen, his teammate, is just behind him in fifth place, with Cesare Manzato starting from sixth. And then the highest I-rated driver in the field, number one, Jorge Martinez, will have to go from seventh. Cedric Beal will start this one from eighth place. Row 5 houses Florian Kammeyer. Timothy Vaughan will start this one out in 10th position. All the way back in 11th is Anthony Catt. He is the master of consistency. He always finds a way forward in these races. Norton Motta, the Brazilian, is alongside him in 12th. Adam Gleeson starts 13th. He's definitely got a turn of pace when he chooses to. Paul O'Regan, ever the consistent driver, is 14th. Andrew Brown said that he doesn't quite know what the strategy is. He believes it's a one-stop. He goes from 15th position with Connor Pooler 16th. And then, of course, one driver who is often lauded out here, another driver who shouldn't be back here, John Pat Kelly, 17th, who is often consistent. Jordan Gronkowski should be nowhere near this place in 18th. Jason Green, way off the pace in 19th position. Edward Apare Ariye will be 20th. The last driver did not set a time. That's Christian Macrelli, who will be going from the back, the Italian, with work to do in this field. It's 2 minutes to grid up, or they start from pit lane. They must change off of the tyres that they start on. Most drivers choosing the medium compound yellow walled tyres. A couple drivers may be thinking about the red walled soft to try and get that early, but as most drivers get themselves on, there is always opportunity. Those 308 kilometers are going to speak for themselves. The iRacing Grand Prix Tour gets itself underway, and we are racing. Parker off with a fantastic second phase of acceleration as they rush on down through to the opening corner. And for the first time this season, lovely stuff from the front four. A few locks of brakes, spinner in the middle. It's Florian Kammeyer who's gone around in the early stages. He will now start to drop back through the field, and not the start he was hoping for through the AMG arena.
Yeah, it's very difficult to work out what happened there. We might have to see a replay, but it's exactly the kind of thing that I was saying to look out for. Cars just misjudging each other through that first corner. Darren Parker absolutely flying off the start as we expected him to. Judging by his qualifying times, he is going to be difficult to beat today. Heading down towards the hairpin, it's Parker, Radis, Lux, Webb and Nielsen, the top 5, and they all stream through behind like an angry swarm of wasps.
Well, it may be missing, but Parker is one of only 2 drivers on the red walled soft compound tyre. The other one is Cesare Manzato, so Parker will use that soft tyre early and will pivot onto the tougher tyre to make things manage. Car going off wide there through the middle sector. That's not going to be helpful out there for Manzato. And look at this a little bit further back. This is behind Paul O'Regan. It's a swarm behind Anthony Catt. Jason Green trying to find his way through. Norton Motta, Kammeyer, who had the contact early. Apare Ari, Andrew Brown, all there on the brakes up the hill. They all search here at that Vidal chicane and try and tiptoe their way around. Anthony Catt in a whole host of trouble, and there's the reason why. He's going to dive down into the pits early with damage, and he's going to have to go onto an alternative strategy, not what the doctor ordered for the driver who finished P4 in the Simsby Championship last year.
Looks as if Martinez got side by side with Nielsen. That was over 5th position. Just saw the times change and then change back again. So squabbling all the way through the field. Now, when DRS starts to play into this race, that could shake it up even more, because that area there, that heavy braking zone into turn 1, is right at the end of a DRS zone. I'm just seeing on the live timing, actually, some of the other battles taking place right now, but you can see them visually on your screen. You saw cars darting about in the braking zone, heading up towards the chicane on that first lap, because there's just no point throwing your car in when you know there's 3 other cars exactly where you're aiming. Apari Ari was one of the drivers who was rather boxed in and almost looked frustrated as he looked for a way to get around the corners here. And now we look back up towards the front of the field. This is Webb running in 4th position and chasing down Walter Lux.
Yeah, he's trying to stay in range, and I think that's rather important here because you've got to be within 1 second of the car in front at the start of lap 3. That will allow that drag reduction system to open up, which is an extra 80 brake horsepower in these Mercedes W13 e-performances. What a start by Jordan Gronkowski, as he knows very well the Scotsman is on a charge, and he is up 8 places in the opening 2 laps. He's got Adam Gleeson just in front, who is just as quick as he is on the brakes through at the opening corner and up the hill through this section moving forward. Here's a first look at our SimSpeed replay. So this is the opening start here, Caitlin, to this race. This is how quickly it goes wrong around Anthony Cat and Florian Kammer. Look at a swarm, 4, 5 wide almost in places in the middle, and Cat gets in the middle and he just gets sandwiched.
It's a pure racing incident, Jake. There's no blame on any of those drivers there. You could say that the driver on the outside, Anthony Cat, I expect, could have seen that there were 2 cars on his inside, but realistically, that kind of thing happens at the first corner, and you can't put the blame on any one driver. Back into the field here, we're riding on board with Timothy Vaughan, one of the drivers on the yellow walled, the harder of the 2 compounds that we saw most of the drivers starting on. I've noticed that Anthony Cat appears to have put on the harder compound of tyre, and that makes sense because we know that the tyres don't wear down particularly fast today, so he can run basically as long into the race as he likes on that one set of tyres. And he won't need to worry about that for any length of time. We're expecting 1-stop strategies today, and of course they do have to pit at least once, because in dry conditions such as this, you have to use 2 compounds of those slick tyres.
And there is another fastest lap then for Parker as he goes through, and a double bit of looking going forward, as there was some side-by-side with the likes of Kent Nielsen, Cesare Manzato, Beal side-by-side up through turn 2, through the AMG Arena. Adam Gleeson on the outside, having to go the long way around turn 3. He'll get the switch back here at 4. This 90-degree right-hander completely commands the line and takes it. Now watch behind Timothy Vaughan trying to get open. This track shrinks as short as 10 meters here through the Mullenbachschleife, this part of the circuit that they go through, and Vaughan will find himself back in line. Paul O'Regan on the back of this too. Gronkowski desperate to try and find some moves. You can see the light there, the rain light on the back there, really blinking a lot from Cedric Beal. That shows that he's harvesting his energy recovery system. Doesn't need it. Round the outside, a Goodyear. Absolutely incredible. Now here comes Vaughan's opportunity.
Absolutely, but he's going to have to wait for a few corners here because they get bunched up, and it's almost like an accordion squishing itself together. And now it starts to extend again on the straight. The DRS flaps open, but it's rather mitigated for Vaughan here because Bull also has his rear wing open. He, of course, within a second of Jordan Gronkowski up in front. And Gronkowski did pretty well in that last schmozzle to gain positions when he could very much have got boxed in. They were very nearly 3 wide at one point. And I tell you what, that little flick to the right. Sorry, Martinez is just up to 4th, I'm being shown on the screen. It looks as if Jorge Martinez has passed now Adam Webb and Kent Nielsen.
Yeah, we just saw that pass happen. We just caught the back end of it. So on consecutive laps then, Kent Nielsen and Adam Webb being passed by Jorge Martinez, the number 1 driver in this field. We'll take another look at it here. Here's those 4 lights on the dash there, saying that he's got the DRS, can move over to the right-hand side, and can comfortably make that pass. That is beautifully done then in terms of a move, and you couldn't really ask for much better in terms of an overtake from Martinez. Next up on his list is the Austrian Walter Lux, who will be there just in front in the number 6 machine, and that is a second and a half he's got to chase down. That gap still a second and a half there or thereabouts, cresting the rise through the Schumacher S, giving chase here on lap 5.
Absolutely. Jorge Martinez with the number 1 on the side of the car, showing that he is the top-rated iRacing driver. Adam Gleeson and Kent Nielsen have swapped places. And I tell you what, Nielsen, last time I looked, was running up in 5th. I know that he dropped back past Martinez, so that would have put him 6th, but there's absolutely no explanation as to why he should be 8th place right now. So Manzato and Gleeson both picked up place. Sorry, Jake.
Well, the reason why will be Kent Nielsen's had a half spin, and I think we've just caught it here coming out of the AMG arena. This is where it happens, through the right-hander, trying to get the power early, and there's the back, stepping out, half spin, able to save it, and it costs him quite a bit of time. Now, if you go back, Gronkowski having a mega look to the inside, can't quite manage it. Behind that, Cedric Beale finds himself all worked up as Timothy Vaughan sneaks up the inside at turn 2 and makes sure that he takes a place now and moves into the top 10 and gets 1 SimSpeed Championship point should he finish there in this one. We do have 1 driver out of the race. That's Florian Kammeier. That's technical. His connection's dropped to the server and he is gone. It happens. It's like the engine going boom.
Yeah, but his race was rather hampered by that first corner incident anyway. This looks like Gronkowski and Nielsen, is it? Oh, contact between the 2 of them, and they both go off. Was that netcode, or did they just get a little too cozy?
I think it was netcode more than anything else, which got them there, but they were very cozy. Kent Nielsen, lest we forget, is the 1 driver that absolutely fights for every position out there, but there's nothing you can do. The room was given. Gronkowski takes the tap, and he will drop back down the order with Kent Nielsen. That is a huge shame for both of them. Here's another look at it, through into the corner, and the incident of that contact, they're very much a case of somewhere in the world, somewhere in all of the multiple diverging paths, there was opportunity. How close do you want to get if you're Christian McCrelly trying to find that pass on Andrew Brown? Not quite finding the angle, but very nearly running back. Gronkowski runs off the road, though, and he's going to dive in for the pits. This is unscheduled.
No surprise there, but it is a bit of a shame. We're just over a tenth of the way through the race, so way too early for realistic pit stops to be taking place. But anyway, it's the kind of thing you have to expect after a collision like that, and it's just the kind of unfortunate thing that can happen in sim racing competition sometimes. But there you go, Jake.
Yeah, there was the move, though, on Jason Green from Connor Pooler, making a very comfortable pass. And this is what we're going to see a lot of here today. The DRS overtaking opportunity, drivers deploying as much of the energy recovery system into that overtake mode that they have available to them on the brakes through the opening corner, which drops down through that section, very similar to the first corner, or the second corner, I should say, at Sepang in Malaysia. Very much a part of the early Herman Tilke design of racetrack.
Absolutely. So back to the action here. We're watching, is that Jason Green there behind Connor Pooler, running 12th and 13th positions. Ironically, of course, the Jason Green car is green, rather green indeed. And really standing out in the middle of the circuit there as he chases down Connor Pooler, who's been in and amongst the action today. Darren Parker, meanwhile, sets the fastest lap of the race. He already had the fastest lap, but increases it even more so. And I forgot to ask you this before the race, Jake, but I believe that's an extra point, is it, if you get the fastest lap?
In the SimSpeed Championship, yes, if you finish inside the top 10 with that fastest lap bonus point. Here's the race on for third. Walter Lux, Jorge Martinez, Adam Webb, and Cesare Manzato, all here in this 4-car group. Now, Lux has been reeled back in over the last few laps. He did a 32.9 that last time by. Now a 32.7 from Martinez, took 0.2 of a second away. but patience is going to need to prevail here on lap 8. This is not going to be a case of you can win this race from here. You can very easily lose it, but the one thing that I think these drivers are also keeping in mind today is the weather. It is cold and it is rather windy as well. It's gusting about 16 kilometers an hour from the southwest. That's going to be causing a bit of nightmare. Crosswinds pretty much here, there, and everywhere.
In fact, the DRS is so the DRS is about to be activated here on the back of Martinez's car. You see it opening, the little letterbox slit. Same with Webb and Manzato. It's a four-way scrap for that third position, as you saw on the bottom right of your screen a little while ago. The funny thing about a track like this being a relatively high downforce circuit is that the DRS is technically quite powerful here, but the straights are just rather too short for them to make a significant maneuver or an attempted maneuver, unless they got a much better exit from the last corner than their rivals. So when you get a little chain like this, where the cars are relatively evenly matched and the drivers themselves are running at a similar pace, it can be quite difficult to make up positions. And at this point in time, it's allowing the top two, Parker and Radice, to get away. Parker now leads by 6 seconds over Radice. Yeah. Radice has 4 seconds of his own, 5 seconds over Walter Lux, but these four are glued to each other's rear wings.
Now, the difference on the front stretch that we just saw there was about 16 kilometers an hour for Jorge Martinez with DRS versus Walter Lux, who did not have that DRS, who was stuck at 275 on main power. And it's not often that you say, with cars like this at 275 is the big number. There's the big look down the inside from Jordan Gronkowski. Now, that's an important move, because that puts him through on Anthony Cat. It makes him the driver who leads this race, who has made a pit stop at this point. But Gronkowski here is on a soft tyre. So that means one very important thing here, Caitlin. He switched to a 2-stop.
Yeah, and kind of had to at this point, because we know that almost every other driver is expected to do a one-stop strategy. So if you are thrown offline, you could, of course, keep to your one-stop strategy, but you're very unlikely to make up positions if you do so. Or you could do something slightly out of the box, put yourself on a 2-stopper and just see if it works.
Martinez.
Meanwhile, Martinez up the inside of Walter Lux, has the overspeed with the DRS and the slipstream, and gets to the inside of that first corner, which is easily the best overtaking opportunity of the lap.
Yeah, so that's wonderfully done. Martinez come through making that move, and you look further back, side by side goes Beale and Paul O'Regan making the move up now into 9th place, but the door's still slightly ajar. Thoughts there from Cedric Beale, but he has to fall back into line because he's got Norton Motta, who is just behind, who could very easily pounce if he's out of line, and Connor Pooler as well, who in the back half of last season was knocking on the door of some top 5s and some podiums. So Connor Pooler, I would say, out of position here in terms of the start of this season, where every point will matter between now and the end. Gronkowski with the fastest lap of the race.
Wow, so Gronkowski on the soft tyre. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised about that, of course, because he'll have just made a pit stop. Those will be fresh. He'll have clean air in front of him. But to be honest, I think that was probably set on the lap where he passed Cat, wasn't it? Unless he's done one more lap since I last looked. So very impressive there from Jordan. Of course, he won't get a point for that unless he's in the top 10. We're talking about the SimSpeed Championship here. So still some more time to be gained for Jordan Gronkowski. Meanwhile, we're back to the fight for the top 10. And the reason I bring this up is because Connor Pooler was all over the back of Norton Motta there. It almost looked as if he thought he had a chance going into the chicanery. But unfortunately, a little too far back, and it's not a particularly heavy braking zone going through there. And so he has to wait another straight.
He does, but watch out if you're Paul O'Regan, because here comes the look from Cedric Beale, thinking about it, under braking, keeping his nose in. They're really just trying to sniff out an overtake and not really able to find it. So that was a case of trying to be opportunistic, but Paul O'Regan was ever so slightly better on the brakes, so was pretty much in the best place possible. Didn't have too much to worry about here in the race on for 9th position on in this field. So there is still a long way to go, but strategy here I think is going to be interesting. It's how long do you want to go on those medium compound tyres, and how much do you want to come back on those softs. We're thinking that it's going to be roughly about 30 laps you could get potentially on those soft tyres, especially in these cold conditions here, Caitlin. So the question is, how long do you want to be out there on that medium tyre?
However long you can without losing too much time. But anyway, I guess that's something you've got to figure out as the race goes on. Of course, as I said earlier, this is not a track that tends to be too
Marquez
abrasive.
is through to third.
Oh, what? No, we mentioned that earlier. We saw it happen, Jake.
Well, we saw what happened going to fourth, but to third, I think was very much a case there for Jorge Marquez that he is very much having a great race at this moment. Started in seventh, he's been climbing up through the field, but he did that on the back end of lap 10, start of lap 11. That's where he got that one sorted straight down the inside. So definitely no surprises that Marquez is finding that place. And here is a little look of that. So on the brake, straight through on the inside. Volta Lux not going to fight it against a driver of Marquez's caliber. So that is as comfortable as you like. That's what puts him up through the order. But it has cost him 13.5 seconds to try and find that time, to try and gain that time. That's where the troubles be. There's Jordan Gronkowski, who breaks the 131 barrier. He is driving on pure Scottish aggression at this moment, and he's only 10 seconds off of Andrew Brown now. 130.9. He is running almost 0.8 of a second a lap quicker than your race leader.
Yep, he's absolutely flying here, but of course a long way down due to events that have happened in this race so far. I'm very impressed by Marquez in the early stages here. As you mentioned, up 4 positions. You see him here trying to break that toe from Walter Lux, who is actually doing a pretty good job of keeping up here, and we'll keep him honest through this section, so we'll keep watching this. But yeah, there you go, up 4 positions, as I've been saying, and that indicates that he may not have got the most out of his ability in that qualifying session, maybe just did not string a lap together. But now that he's free from Walter Lux, or temporarily free, watch this with the DRS, Lux might have a go back at him here. You see him approaching, and there's the braking zone, so he's safe for another lap. But yes, now that he's free from Walter Lux, how can he catch up to the top 2, Darren Parker and Eduardo Redis? Will he be able to? And if so, how long will it take him?
Well, Redis at this moment in time, 6 seconds down the road, and matching times there was the Spaniard and the Italian. So a case of it's even keel from them as things stands, dropping through as they go through. That's a mistake out there on circuit. That there is Kent Nielsen picking up a freebie on Christian Macrelli for position. The number 21 driver who did not set a time in qualifiers, Gronkowski, puts a 30.7 down just to say he can. Here's another look then at the move. So Nielsen slips it down the inside, gets that one sorted, and it's just the lock up in the second phase. Not often that you see that lock, trying to get that slowed even further. That's just a case of holding the foot on the brake a little bit further. Caitlin, would you say maybe trail braking a little bit too much to lock up the inside front?
Yeah, and of course, if you're offline, then you lose grip anyway, because there is more grip where cars have been putting rubber down. But, yeah, just a little bit of a mistake, and he will continue on from that and try to reduce the lost time. Back to Lux and Marquez, I tell you what, Lux has not been dropping back too much. Now, on the last lap, I was commentating as if he was going to make a move, and he didn't quite. I don't think he will on this lap either, but the fact he's been able to keep up with Marquez, who up until that point was charging through the field, is going to do well for Walter Lux's race. We know that Marquez is quick, and if Lux can keep up and kind of follow him through, then he could effectively be towed towards the leading 2 in this race. So I think Lux is doing a good job here, and I think this is crucial for his own strategy.
Yeah, I think it's crucial as well, and I think Volta Lux here is really proving what he's got available in the back pocket, because he's pulling away from Webb and Manzato in this field, who are 5th and 6th. So that's going to be the cause of concern every time. It's another case going through. Gronkowski just doesn't know when to stop. That's a 30.5 now that he's managed to put down. He is absolutely monstering this circuit at this moment, and that is John Pat Kelly, who will now be the first challenge as he's lost the place to Andrew Brown. And look at that difference on that last lap. Caitlin, 4 seconds a lap. That is what you call huge.
Yeah, he's going to get him very, very quickly indeed. And I think Jordan's going to be one of the most fun drivers to watch for the remainder of this race. He has some more to him, and we've seen that from where he was before. And of course, the 5th ranked driver in this race as well. So he's 14 places lower than what he would theoretically be expected to achieve. Obviously, that's not everything. Darren Parker, who's leading the race and building up that gap convincingly, is only the 14th seeded driver. As Martinez and Lux just swap places. Oh, and it's down into turn 1. Lux has got him. Look at that. Oh,
and what's behind? What's behind? It's now Adam Webb and Cesare Manzato going at it. Manzato finds himself on the outside. Mistake from Webb as he gets a little bit of oversteer through turn 2, and Manzato moves up into 5th place. Blink and you miss it. Double overtakes then at the AMG Arena, and that is how lovely you can find that. Slightly wide off the exit went Martinez. That's what's opened the door, and there was a lot of harvesting late from Volta Lux. That's what's giving you opportunity. Look at him, he was even harvesting as he went by on the brakes and made that work. He's really harvesting late into the cycle, trying to get that stop. He went through, and then Adam Webb behind had that tiny little slide that went through that cost him a lot in terms of what he was going through. Meanwhile, Gronkowski has found the back of John Pat Kelly. This will be the first of the moves that he will need to try and make as he rides on through, now down the hill, what used to be the Ford corner, now the Paget Racing curve, and over towards the Goodyear hairpin. He will get a freebie going through as John Pat Kelly eases off the accelerator and says, you know what, my race ain't with you.
Yeah, easy peasy, good driving from both. Here is Timothy Vaughan racing with Adam Gleeson, who of course dropped back a little way earlier on. Actually, I'm getting him confused, aren't I? Gleeson has been making up positions throughout this race, up 6 from his starting place. Now we're seeing a replay of a move that's just taken place. Vaughan has blown past him on the approach to the chicane, and Gleeson did not put up much of a fight with that one, so that's 7th place now to Timothy Vaughan.
Now, I wonder if there was anything out there, like a slowdown penalty or something for Adam Gleeson, or is he really just struggling? Here's your first of your takers, though. Lap 16, Edward Apari-Arie out of what is 13th position is going to be the first real taker in for the pit, and he's going to come out then on a set of what is the soft compound tyre. So he would have to take that an eye-watering distance here in terms of this race, which will be 44 laps worth of racing. 3.9 second pit stop there. But what is really screaming out to me is that he's not a million miles away from Jordan Gronkowski, who we expect will have to pit again. And in comes Anthony Cat off the hard tyres. The strategy really has not paid off for him. I reckon he's gone for a 2-stop, get onto the soft tyre and try and get it home.
Yeah, well, that would be a 3-stop for him from here, because, as you say, it's a long, long way, and he pitted at the end of that first lap.
I reckon he can make it.
Potentially. I mean, it's definitely possible. The tyres don't exactly explode unless you're really nasty with them. But, yeah, I mean, it really depends on how free the tyres are here. And I think that in the case of Edward Apari-Arie, it's much more likely that he is going for a 2-stop strategy. But... as we see Martinez once again getting close to the back of Walter Lux. They're in a proper scrap here. This isn't a case of one driver inevitably flying past the other and going through. They are in a back and forth battle like a pendulum. And of course, it was all changed in the top 6 a couple of laps ago with Manzato also passing Webb. Cesare Manzato, another driver to have gained from his starting position as a result of that. Webb dropping back too.
Yeah.
And another fastest lap here, and again, it's Jordan Gronkowski, 130.4. He'll be in the 129s before we know it.
He certainly will. And remember, Manzato is the only other driver to start this race on the soft tyres. There's Edward Apari-Arie getting past John Pat Kelly into the Vidal chicane. John Pat Kelly getting well out of the way there, almost stalling it felt like, through the middle. He was struggling. Now, here's Connor Pooler in 12th. Looking for the move on Norton Motta, coming up through the Schumacher-S, the fast left-right up the hill. Always searching for the plateau here as you make the long upward climb back to home in this lap around the Nurburgring, with Beal just in front, O'Regan just in front. Last place you want to be in a field like this is the outside looking in, but surely the best place you want to be is on the back of this group, because you've got the opportunity to attack and find that place if you haven't found it already.
Yeah, still riding on board here with Connor Pooler on the back of Norton Motta. Let's see what he can do with the DRS here. To be honest though, if he's been behind him for this long, I'm not sure this particular lap is going to be anything special, but here we go down the straight. You can see the high-tech nature of this car, aerodynamic devices everywhere you look, complicated buttons on the wheel, cars harvesting and putting the power down at different points. That's the beautifully high-tech nature of this Mercedes W13 that was raced in the 2022 Formula One season. Of course, famously won the Sao Paulo Grand Prix with George Russell, and has won every Grand Prix in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour since its inception, because of course it has. It is the only car out there. And that means, of course, that everyone is in equal machinery here.
They absolutely are, and there is always opportunities out there, but there are still going to be chances then to find those overtakes, and it really does show that Connor Pooler looks very good in the middle sector here, where he does need that downforce the most. That's really what we're getting that sense of here, and I reckon he's running a high downforce package that's giving him all of that opportunity to make that happen. The best way to check is using the rear wing test, the litmus test, in terms of who's got what sort of package available to them. Most drivers will have those larger wings with a lot of bevel on the back, which gives that opportunity. There's a search to the inside, which doesn't quite materialize for Pooler. Was on the radio over the last run, but again, all four deciding that they want to stay out. They don't really want to push the boat out too much in this race. Darren Parker leading here on lap 19, his margin 11 seconds, but he will at some stage have to pay the piper, as down the inside, it's defense to offense here for Norton Motta. Cedric Beale all of a sudden finds himself on the wrong side of the road. The up and under attempt trying to be found, not there from the Brazilian, and as such, the Frenchman holds station.
He was a little wide on the extra turn one, but I think that's to be forgiven at that particular corner, and manages to maintain that 10th position there ahead of Norton Motta. But I tell you what, he's a little bit of a cork in a bottle at this point. I've seen him visually dropping back from Paul O'Regan up in front of him, and I think at this point in time, now that he's lost the DRS as well, or at least I think he has, he's going to be even more of an annoyance to the drivers behind him. Not that he doesn't have a right to be there, of course. These three drivers are racing for position, and he has rightfully put himself in 10th position. But now you'll see potentially some ever more frustrated maneuvers from Norton Motta and Connor Pooler, who know that they are quicker than Cedric at this point in time. Here we go then, DRS heat. They're approaching up towards the chicane, but look, the braking zone comes too soon, and the corner is just too narrow.
Well, you have to remember that DRS isn't an automatic overtake button. It is a driver aid there to help you make an overtake, rather than to say it will give you an overtake. So that will always be in the back of drivers' minds, that they have to do all of the work as well. And that's how close Norton Motta wants to get, but will not get close enough to really make anything happen. Those overtakes pretty much drying up a little bit at this moment in time. As that's been going on, Timothy Vaughan has been making some great progress here in 7th position, as there goes Jordan Gronkowski finally around McCrelly. It's taken him a lap to do so. He almost spun the car a lap ago as well, and he's been able to get himself through and doing well. But Timothy Vaughan, let's go to this, Caitlin. Last time around, 4/10 off of Adam Webb. He's really getting into the groove.
He is indeed, Timothy Vaughan, in that distinctive yellow car, the only car on the grid that looks like that. And on those yellow tyres as well, I'm sensing a theme. Jordan Gronkowski, by the way, has just got into the top 15 in that blisteringly fast car. But yes, Timothy Vaughan on the back of Adam Webb. And the top 6 have been swapping around quite a bit in this race. It certainly hasn't been status quo up there at any point. The only driver
we've got a taker.
Oh.
Jorge Martinez, he's just jumped in from 4th position on the road, so he's decided 20 laps in this race. It will give him 40, a huge puff of smoke as he tries to slow this one down. He is going to have to absolutely open up this and get as much as he can out of this stint, and he will know the moment he switches onto those soft tyres, every lap is going to count.
See, this is much more reasonable on the soft tyres. We've got 39 laps still to go. And as we see all sorts of squabbling going on down there, Cedric Beale, Norton Motter and Connor Pooler. And there is a bit of a twitch there from Marquez exiting the pits. He's in 12th position now with plenty of time to be gained, but plenty of time still to do it. What I was going to say is that the one driver who has seemed to have a relatively easy time of it so far has been Darren Parker. His lead is now up to 13 seconds there, up in the lead.
Yeah, this has been a very dominant drive from the front from Darren Parker, who did show a lot of glimpses of that talent last year. He was someone who has definitely done very well at VIR. He got a second. At Imola, he got a third. So he was unable to get a victory, didn't commit to a whole season last year, just an opening salvo of 7 or 8 races. There's the look at the gap that he's got. It's an entire front stretch right now for Parker over Radice. 13 seconds is that margin to try and chase down, and it is a long haul. But remember, Radice can make that call at any point to dive down into the pits, get off those tyres and get on the better set, but he will have to try and make some hay while the sun shines, because Darren Parker is still going to be quick on the medium tyres when he gets a new fresh set of boots.
Absolutely, that's the point I was leading on to. He's done everything he needs to. Connor Pooler into the pits now, taking that from 11th position. But yes, you're right. Tyre strategy is going to be important here today because, of course, the tyres can run very, very long. It's going to encourage the drivers to push that to its limit. And I mean running it even longer than the long that we would expect. Timothy Vaughan now up into 6th position, still just behind Adam Webb. And still just about reeling him in, actually. Every lap ever so slightly closer, whether it's by tenths of a second, as Marquez, by the way, has gained that. So Paula has come up behind Marquez, behind Gronkowski, in fact, and a few other drivers going through as well. That is to be expected. Marquez very nearly back into the top 10, and probably will be before long as more drivers come into the pits. Yeah. One thing that I am wondering about, obviously we're seeing the drivers who started the race on mediums going onto softs quite early, presumably because they know the softs can run for a long time. Does that mean we're going to see a kind of reverse tyre strategy effect where the softs are actually going to, or the drivers who started on softs are actually going to run longer because they know there's no point going onto the mediums yet?
Pretty much, that's what I'm expecting here as Vaughan gets close there to Adam Webb, but not quite close enough. Now, this is where Timothy Vaughan has a disadvantage compared to a lot of other drivers in the field. It's the fact that he's got to get up at the crack of dawn, try and get out there and race. Club Oz NZ, of course, running at this time split, often very difficult, and Adam Webb will realise that and know that he's had a long day of work and trying to get himself into play here in this race. He's certainly been driving out of his skin to be in 5th position. This is a brilliant start to the season for Adam Webb, who has been a top 10 driver all of last season, just in and around that range. But this is really the fastest we've seen, as in again comes Edward Apari-Ariyi. So this has not worked out for him the way he wants to. So this is an abandoned ship of strategy.
Yeah,
might even be a front wing. That's a front wing.
Right. So there's been an incident there for Edward Apari-Ariyi, and that would
there
make
has
a lot
as
more
well.
sense because, what's going on here?
Yeah, we're going to have to get a replay of this. This is a very unique one. We don't often see drivers go off at the Advan Arch. In fact, we just saw there as Vaughan make the pass on as he went through. We saw the tyre marks through the grass where it went wrong for Apari-Ariyi. So here you go up the hill, looking through the Advan Arch. Now, you got the DRS through this zone. You don't often get unsettled, and you wonder how much dirty air played a factor into that. Squirreling across the grass. Oh, and it's the lightest tap of the end plate.
Lightest tap, but I tell you what, the tyres would look like 50 pence pieces, wouldn't they? But yeah, that was on the back of, I think, Connor Pooler after his pit stop. No fault of Connor's, of course. Meanwhile, into the pits, Cedric Beale, and he will stop for a new set of, let me just see what tyres he's on in the first place. So he's gone from the mediums, he'll go onto the softs, almost undoubtedly so. Darren Parker here, still leading by 14 seconds. Absolutely imperious so far. Now he's started the race on the soft tyres, and that's why I was bringing up this kind of reverse strategy, because normally in racing you expect to see drivers running longer on harder tyres. It's just kind of how it works. But at a track like this, where the abrasion is low and the tyres aren't going off anywhere near as quickly as they might in other places, it really could be down to a completely different set of rules. But anyway, oh, look at Manzato catching Lux now. Look at that.
Yeah, he's still working on those softs. He's doing great work on those softs. It's very much a case they were even over their last lap. The question I'm looking at is Volta Lux, 32 flats at the moment. Marquez is currently 6 to 7 tenths of a second faster a lap at this moment on fresh tyres. So Volta Lux looking around, probably not got what the answer that he wants at this moment in time, which is, I'm losing ground by staying out long, but I'm going to try and overcut this and try and gain it back on that stint heading towards the end of the race. That's going to be the main port of call for someone like Lux at this moment in time. I will get my gains back later on when the tyres have much more of an advantage and I can push even harder on those sets they go through. Lap 25. Here out of 60, and that is another car diving into the pits, and I expect that is the Canadian. It is Kent Nielsen, who is, of course, the toughest racer in this field, and he is tough. He's the sort of driver that you find out on the ice rink and you don't want a Donnybrook with him.
Do we have backstory to that? Kent Nielsen being a really tough driver?
Just look at what he's done in this race and what he's done in many others. He is someone who fights for every position, sometimes to his own detriment, but he will not let a position go anyway, anyhow. If he's got a position, he will do everything to keep it. And there we focus still on Lux and Manzato, third and fourth positions as they currently sit in this race. But up the hill, you now have to wonder this question. Manzato's got to go onto the worst tyre of the two. How long does he decide to really want to go out and bite that bullet? How long do you think he can go on that set of soft tyres, knowing that they're still very much working in range and keeping himself with the medium runner like Volta Lux, who you'd expect that tyre to last an age of turn and by comparison?
Well, from a personal point of view, this reminds me a lot of the Super Formula Championship I did a while ago on R-Factor 2, where the soft and the hard tyres, as Paul O'Regan pits meanwhile, the soft and the hard tyres they felt pretty much exactly the same. There was very little between them in terms of lap times, and they didn't really tend to go off at different rates either. But there was still a difference because the soft tyres gave you so much more comfort. They just didn't slide around quite as much as the hard tyres would. And as a result, you'd want to get onto the soft tyres as quickly as you possibly could and then just run them for the rest of the race. I wonder if it's a very similar thing here, where you really don't have to think too much about the tyre life or about the pace of the tyres, but it's a comfort thing. And that might be why we're seeing the advantage that the soft tyres have given runners like Darren Parker.
We've just seen Jorge Marquez get through on Norton Motta. This is Paul O'Regan and Connor Pooler. They've come back out together again, so they cannot separate each other in this race. And they know it's a long, long road yet still. 33 laps or 34 laps still remaining in this race to try and sort out anything that they need to at this moment in time. Rushing forward then, trying to climb back up the hill once more, looking at opportunities and whether they can be found through the Schumacher S, heading to the former Ravenel corner, and then of course you've got the Bilstein corner here. This right-hander, so underrated in its difficulty, because you are trying to glue yourself to that inside curve and try and hit the throttle as quickly as possible. So often it goes wrong, Caitlin. Here comes the move.
Here we go then, up the inside and straight through. Very nicely done from Connor Pooler there. In all honesty, one of the most underrated corners for me in motorsports is the last corner of the arena section, the Mercedes arena. The little right-hand flick that heads out there as back into the pits. No, this is the first stop for Jason Green. Very good. Yeah, the little flick at the end of the Mercedes arena is so satisfying because it is just about at the top of your grip and your speed at that point in time. You're still building up the speed from the previous corner, and you can very nearly do it flat. In some cars, you actually can. And it's so satisfying when you get it right. And it's definitely an overtaking opportunity too, if you've held yourself around the outside of someone through the previous turn and then kept it there on the inside. But yeah, the Nurburgring just full of satisfying drivers' corners. Partly, of course, because it was partly designed by Michael Schumacher and other racing drivers of the era. That was, sorry, the updated version of the circuit, since it came before Michael Schumacher, but you know what I mean. Back to the racing, I've just seen a swap. Looks like Cesare Manzato is through, so up into third place, ahead of Walter Lux.
He is, so he's gone through, and in comes two. So in comes Webb, in comes Gleeson. Both of them will decide to make their stop and try and get themselves forward with 33 laps on their softs to get this one going. But an important change for Manzato. He was tired of waiting around. He was going to comfortably make that pass. And again, it's using that DRS, using everything that he has available to him to try and make the move and get on forward. There was no need in terms of this move here, diving down the inside, to use any of the 28,400 square meters of asphalt runoff that is here at this Nurburgring circuit in the Grand Prix Strecker. He knows how important it is that he now makes use of those tyres now that he is up into third place.
Indeed, looks like Gleeson and Webb came out very close to each other as well, swapping a couple of times on pit exit. But yes, Manzato through into third place. He's got clean air up in front of him now. And at a tight circuit like Nürburgring, a high downforce circuit such as this one, that can be very important indeed. And I'm sure that he will be much more comfortable running in clean air. Now, believe it or not, Jake, we're at the halfway point of the race, as near as makes not much difference. And all the drivers who haven't yet made their pit stops will be thinking about when they're going to do it and how they're going to do it, and how, of course, it's going to affect their race. Make sure you keep in mind that the top driver who has stopped in this race is this man that we're looking at, Jorge Marquez. And I tell you what, Jordan Gronkowski still catching. He's up 11 places from his grid position, despite the collision that he was involved in earlier on. He's just done a new fastest lap, 1:30.234.
Exactly. He is 7/10 on that last lap, quicker than Jorge Marquez. Jordan Gronkowski is burning the candle from both ends at this moment. He is flying, and I wonder if he can get those tyres home. I don't think he can. I think he'll have to stop again. But he knows that he is certainly the fastest driver here at the Nürburgring, with no doubt about it. Qualifying did not play out the way he wanted to. Little twitch off of the exit of the Goodyear hairpin and up through the Schumacher S, really trying to maximise here as you get very light on the steering wheel as you go up through that section. He wants every piece of pace as he can, as in comes Eduardo Radice from second.
Indeed, Radice, who we've seen basically nothing of in this race so far, due to him being in no man's land between the flying Parker and the squabbling pack behind him. And yes, he will change onto a set of softs. And now, of course, the race gets really interesting. It's certainly not over yet for the lead, because even though there was a massive gap, nearly 20 seconds, that was, of course, on different tyres. Walter Lux in as well. He's been right in the mix of the scraps. We saw him fighting with Marquez earlier on, then of course with Manzato and various other drivers throughout the course of this race. And there is, well, those are the top two drivers who have made their pit stops, Marquez and Gronkowski, who are gaining time, gaining positions, hand over fist. And I'm sure that when Parker, Manzato, etc., this is Gleeson and Webb side by side over 8th position.
Oh, careful, Adam.
Sure when other drivers make their pit stops, Marquez and Gronkowski will find themselves all of a sudden in a higher position than what they were in.
That was very nearly trouble for Adam Webb. Twice he's almost been bitten there at turn 2. It's off camber through that section on the inside. If you're not carrying enough pace through there, it's very easy for the car to become unsettled because you're not using enough downforce through that section of circuit. It's one of those corners that you just know you're going to have to drive faster in order to get more grip around there. There's a look at the move, then we'll catch it on the SimSpeed replay. This is how comfortable of a pass this becomes. Straight down the inside then, from one Mr. Adam Gleeson. This was as easy as you like, just commands the inside, and then Adam Webb on the inside has that little wiggle there you just see, has to correct, and just like that, running around the outside, Adam Gleeson was not going to take no for an answer, and he finds himself in the right place. In comes the likes then of Timothy Vaughan. He will make his one stop. Now, here's something that's quite interesting here, Caitlin. Walter Lux, by staying out as long as he did, lost 5 seconds to Jorge Martinez on just the fact that he didn't have the same tyres, and there was that free space to attack from Martinez. It's a case now that he'll have to bring that time back. Timothy Vaughan, again, a further 5 seconds back. This group, a further about 7 or 8 seconds back. Adam Gleeson leading the train of Webb, of Pula, and O'Regan, all scrapping it out for the final points in the SimSpeed Championship.
For Lux and Vaughan, though, I don't think they lost too much at all, because the ball's in their court now. They'll have the fresher tyres, and they'll have the pace. And they weren't going to get
Look
the
at where
track
Radice has
position
come
anyway.
out.
Yes, Radice now... Oh, he's only just ahead of Martinez, isn't he? Goodness me, so Martinez really is gaining time from this. Now remember, when Martinez went through into 3rd position, there was about 5 seconds between the two of them. And have a look at that gap there, Jake. That's not 5 seconds.
It's not. He pitted 9 laps earlier than Eduardo Radice, and look at that gap. It is hovering, teetering at around 1 second. And let's not forget Jordan Gronkowski, who absolutely is on a mission here today to make as many places as he can and gain as much as possible here around this Nurburgring Grand Prix Strecker circuit, with VIR, the Virginia International Raceway, on the horizon a week from today. Here's the look, and in the pits and out. Vaughan's out. Timothy Vaughan is out.
That's such a shame, considering how well he's been doing in this race. But yes, we've seen him drop to the back of the order, and everyone flying through. I tell you what, he's not in 20th position in terms of distance covered, so that does indicate that something more sinister has been going on there. And
I think we got it.
big shame. He was within the top 10, and this will show it, heading into big twitch. Look at that, he's going to go rearwards into the barriers. And without a rear wing, I think that car was going to be a nightmare to get back.
Unsettled on entry, and then catching the curb Tony Hawk style, never going to be ideal. This is one of the higher curved circuits that you find out there over the course of the racing calendar. And now 2nd, 3rd and 4th, or what is 3rd, 4th and 5th on the circuit, as in comes your race leader, Darren Parker, to make his one and only pit stop here at the Nürburgring, or one and only scheduled, I should say. He'll have to look for his box. It'll be the last one down in the pit lane, and he'll have a very simple job. Get up on the jacks, get the tyres changed, get off of the jacks, and then go onto those mediums. 4 seconds stationary in the box. He will still hold the lead over Cesare Manzato. 1 full pit stop he had over the field. But how will he last on those mediums compared to runners like Radice, Martinez, Gronkowski on the soft who are giving chase? On the brakes, they will search in just a moment in towards the opening corner here on lap 33 of 60, and it's getting very close. Here's another look at what happened to Timothy Vaughan, and you're going to watch it here. This is where it happens, Caitlin. Entry. He gets out on that curb on the outside. Little twitch. Can't quite grab it the second time of asking, and the car just throws him off course.
It's just physics, Jake. You can see the rear getting twitchy, and at that point, the momentum is against you. You correct it one way, it's going to snap the other way, and that's what forced the car into the barriers just before the Bilstein curve. It's a tricky point. Damon Hill crashed there in 95. The best have done it. Michael Schumacher spun there, I think 2002 as well. So yeah, it's been done, and Timothy Vaughan is unfortunately the driver with the unfortunate distinction of being the first crash damage retirement of the year. Meanwhile, a couple of changes of position further down. I think that's partly because of pit stops and things like that. But yeah, I'm keeping an eye out for the leaders coming through. I'm really interested to see what the gap's going to be between Parker and Manzato at the end of this lap. having seen that Parker has maintained his lead. Little bit of a touch there. Now, who's that getting involved? Jason Green?
Yeah, that was Jason Green getting past Andrew Brown for position there. So Green versus Brown. It's a game of snooker out there at the moment because Brown ends up losing a point or so. It's not often what we get to see. Yeah, so we definitely got pit takers there, and Gronkowski having to get off of the back of that group because he is determined to be on that two-stop strategy. Now, that is going to mean that he'll be more aggressive on this set of tyres, that he'll be once again looking to set those purple lap times, which gives him that extra bonus point, and it hasn't really cost him that much. He still comes out here in 6th position, just in front of Gleeson, of Webb, of Pooler, and of Paul O'Regan. This is a huge recovery stint from Gronkowski, who, lest we forget, was dead last at one point here in this race, and now has the ability to race on a two-stop strategy recovery for a top 5, if not more.
Yeah, he'll get away from those guys, no questions asked. And if he can maintain the pace that he's been showing, if he can show the same kind of speed again, which I'm sure that he can, Gronkowski could still be very much in the fight for the top 5 here, potentially even a podium later on, although I'm rather jumping the gun with that one. But as I was saying earlier, the ball is very much in his court, and I think he's driven this race very, very well indeed. By the way, the gap for the lead is 4 seconds between Parker and Manzato, and you may be thinking, whoa, that's a lot less than what we had before, but you have to remember that Manzato is yet to stop. The real gap for the lead between Parker and Radice is 13 seconds, and that's the gap that really matters, because Radice will be catching him on those softer tyres. And of course, if he is to catch him, he'll have to pass him on the track, won't he?
And that gap is coming down at 1 second a lap. So at this moment in time, Darren Parker's got to find the hurry up, because Radice and Marquez do have the pace as it stands. Gronkowski leading this group here currently for 6th on back, and you've got Gleeson there waiting, Webb waiting, Pooler waiting, O'Regan waiting, and they have to wait because the drag reduction system train is in full force. Everyone's got the advantage on everyone else. Nobody can really make a decisive strike in the places where they can make that move, and as such, it is the most painful part of the race. You can't make a mistake. You can't step out of line. Everybody is pretty much on the train at the moment, and they're coupled as carriages.
Yeah, there really is a train forming here. Look at that, 5 cars. Now, Gronkowski, we expect to get away from that. But Gleeson, Webb, Pooler, and O'Regan, they're in it for the long haul here. And no immediate way of getting ahead of your rivals, or at least pulling away. And that's the thing with the DRS. I was talking about this earlier, and of course it was Gleeson earlier who was holding up Pooler and Motta, it was at the time. Cedric Beale had his own little train forming at around the same point in the race. And yeah, this is just the kind of thing that happens at circuits like this. You see the rear wing flaps open. That indicates that they are at least within a second of the car in front of them. But of course, for an overtake to take place, you also have to be travelling significantly faster than your opponent. You'll see how it works here. We're on board with... No wing?
No wing, look at this. This is trouble for Adam Gleeson. He doesn't have DRS, but Adam Webb couldn't quite pivot to the inside, and as such, they have to stay in lane. Now, that could have been a lot of trouble for Gleeson there, because he's dropped off. He's lost the 1 second margin to Jordan Gronkowski. Look at it, it's 1.7 seconds. No surprises there that Gronkowski's just checked out and said, I'll see you later. I'll see you in the showers. But at this moment, that's big. In comes Andrew Brown, one of the last takers in this field to make a stop. One of the only other drivers yet to make a stop. Cesare Manzata, the number 9.
Yeah, Manzata will be the last driver to make his stop when he comes in. And I was mentioning earlier on that we could end up with kind of a reverse strategy from what we're used to seeing. Manzato is taking that to the extreme. But anyway, Brown, of course, was the only other driver who we were waiting for. We're still looking at this scrap on the back of Adam Gleeson's car, Webb, Paula, etc. You panicked me a bit there, Jake, when you said no wing. I thought you meant there'd been an accident or something, but no, that was, of course, Adam Gleeson dropping back over a second behind Gronkowski, and therefore no longer having the DRS at his disposal.
Well, here's the issue that you've got. Struggling to put the power down is Adam Webb off of the exit of the corner. That dirty air, those turbulences and vortices that careen off of the cars in front really do hurt in terms of being able to make that, as Gronkowski puts a 30 flat down on the board. Here comes Adam Webb to the inside, searching. Doesn't have the conviction to make the move, and it very much puts him back into the thralls of Connor Pooler. Such was how much he dropped down and had no aerodynamic grip, was reliant purely on the mechanical grip of the car down through the opening corner. So that brings him into play at this moment as this race continues to be fought on a moment where everybody is looking around at everybody else with 24 laps to go. We are very much in the middle of this race, setting up for a grandstand finish for the race lead with Radice, Martinez and Parker, all players of the game, so to speak, to try and get their places in. Connor Pooler still searching for a way past Adam Webb. This would be for 8th place and for 2 extra SimSpeed Championship points, a 4-point swing.
Yeah, here we are again on board with, this looks like Connor Pooler to me, very good. Now, I mentioned earlier that Gronkowski is going to get into the 129s. I think he's going to do it on this lap. His last lap around was a 130.0, and he's going even quicker. Meanwhile, Pooler does take a look to the inside, knows he has to back out of that one, and you'll see a bit of a ripple effect there as the car behind him has to back up a bit. Gronkowski across the line. What is his lap? Oh, it's just down actually, 100th of a second down on his ultimate best. But trust me, he will continue to push over the next few laps. There is Gleason, Webb, Pooler, and O'Regan. But yeah, what I was saying was that sometimes there's a bit of a ripple effect where one driver gets balked and then everyone behind starts scrabbling around like, can I get through? No, okay, guess I'll get balked too.
It's consistent here. It's 1 to 1.2 seconds here at the front of the field. Radice now that gap down. 8.5 seconds to your race leader. This is going to be a very tough defense for Darren Parker in this race on the tougher tyre to try and bring this one home. And he is running times that are similar, almost identical, I would say, to what he was running before he came down in and made that stop. He is in a world of hurt on that medium. And some drivers do take an affinity, Caitlin, to a different type of tyre compared to the other. Darren Parker, absolutely untouchable on the soft tyre. On the medium, he's fallible.
Yeah, it's certainly not over yet. It really, really is not. He will probably settle into a bit more of a rhythm as the stint goes on. But of course, drivers definitely prefer, from a mental point of view, to be the hunter rather than the hunted. And Radice, sorry, I've just noticed he's both, isn't he? Because Marquez there, look at that. And Martinez set a personal best that last time around. But yes, drivers do prefer to be the hunter. And look at the fastest lap now, and it is in the 129s. We knew it was going to happen. Jordan Gronkowski continuing to push. He is only 6 seconds now behind Walter Lux, gaining every time around by matters of half a second, sometimes more. And the fact is, I tell you what, even Lux was setting his personal best time last time around. Gronkowski doesn't care. He goes 7/10 quicker. And really, that's qualifying pace nearly from Jordan Gronkowski, and he will be on him in a matter of a handful of laps.
Into the pits goes Anthony Cat. 3-stop. He's got nothing really to race for out there at this moment in time. Way down the order, struggling. It'll be another set of softs. He'll be looking for a fastest lap if at all possible, and maybe take a point away from somebody at the end of this race. Webb up the hill now then. He's still giving chase to Adam Gleason. It's taken him a couple laps to settle back down into a rhythm, give him that opportunity to go forward. And oh yeah, look at that. In comes Manzato then. So he'll finally bite the bullet, and it took him 40 laps to do so.
Whoa, and Radice's last lap was very quick indeed. Radice 130.2. He's very nearly at Gronkowski's pace as well. and he was 1.5 seconds faster than Darren Parker. Goodness me. I knew that there'd be a swing in performance with Radice on the soft tyres and Parker on the mediums. I was not expecting 1.5 seconds per lap. That is a little bit extreme here, and it shows me that we probably are going to get a race for the lead. Meanwhile, the race for 7th is just as exciting. But yes, my goodness, it's not over yet.
It's not. Manzato's just come out of the pits and he's fallen just behind Jordan Gronkowski, and he is on those medium tyres, and he'll be looking at that group behind of Gleeson, of Webb, of Pooler, and O'Regan going, I don't really want to be dealing with those in the latter stages of this race. It's very much a case of, well, can he hold on? Because we're talking about top 10 points here, and he might go from a case of having himself 8 or 10 championship points and might leave today with just 1 by the end of his stint. That'll be his major cause of concern at the moment. Darren Parker's also having to deal with lap traffic at this moment. First time we've really had to mention this at the front of the field. This is Andrew Brown that he's got to get through. He's already put a lap on John Pat Kelly, but he is having to deal with the traffic. 31.3 is a little bit of a better answer there for him at the moment in the neon colours there of AMG Petronas Mercedes. But Eduardo Radice, 130.5 again. This is coming down quickly, and he is finding time out of the ears.
Absolutely is. We'll take a look at what the laps are this time around. They both seem to have been affected a little bit, but I tell you what, it's still 0.8 of a second for Eduardo Radice, as Adam Webb there has passed Adam Gleeson. So we're going to see what happened here in the Adam squabble. There you see Webb going to the inside, DRS wide open, and it shows you had quite an overspeed when you can do it into the chicane. But yeah, easy. He made it look.
He's very nearly had another issue there up at turn 2. It really is his bogey corner out there. 3 times he's been close to biting the bullet there, and he has very much held station quite nicely. Now look at Manzato on that last lap. He has gone on the outlap, did a 55.2 outlap, and Adam Webb's already there. Manzato might not... I think this might be a case of struggling to get the mediums up to temperature.
I think so too. That would definitely make sense. And in that case, you would certainly have wanted to race on the mediums first. So just so long as you can maintain your position. Oh, who's round?
It's Andrew Brown, and it was right in front of the driver's 2nd and 3rd, and right behind the overall race leader. Look at him struggle. He's still going. Those tyres are hyperheated.
Okay, cool it down. Don't you lose it again. Here we go. Here's a replay of what's just happened. He's right behind Darren Parker here, right behind the race leader. And as you say, not too far ahead of 2nd place runner Eduardo Radice. Lights the rear tyres up and around he goes. Radice only able to take 0.4 of a second out of Parker on that last lap. Parker is gaining time now. Parker sets a personal best lap that last time around. Still not quite as quick as Radice. And there is the move.
That was Manzato getting past.
Yes, Webb on Manzato for 6th.
And Manzato now can only look behind and see Gleeson and see Pooler and see O'Regan as Gronkowski sets another fastest lap of the race with a 129.9. But this is where it is struggle street right now for Cesare Manzato. On those mediums, a 33.2 is by no means competitive, and he might very well in this race fall outside of the top 10 to about 12th if Beal and Motta are only 8 seconds adrift of him at this moment in time. It's very doable that if he can't get the pace up, he is going to be falling like a stone here in this race.
I think you're right then, Jake. I think it is just a case of struggling to get heat into those medium tyres, because he's struggling like Parker was after his pit stop. And Parker has now picked up the pace. Like I said, he's in the 130s now. He's just gone down to a 131, and across the line they go. And it looks as if, still loses half a second to Radice. But he's a lot quicker than he was. And there's a mistake, a little mistake there. Was that from... There's a move being made. So it's Gleeson on Manzato and through as well. Connor Pooler on the outside. Will O'Regan follow him through. Look at that. It's almost like he had to stop and was like, after you. Oh my goodness, you as well. So plenty of lost positions there for Cesare Manzato, and all from a little mistake. Now here is Marquez, and right on the back of Radice. You see, it's no wonder that Radice is going like a scolded cat, because not only can he see the trophy up the road in front of him, but he can see, almost like he's being chased by a pack of wolves here, Jorge Martinez right up his chuff.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember that Martinez here, who is sat in third position, has not even attempted one move on Eduardo Radice. He has just sat and he has waited against the Italian. He knows that all he has to do is get taken, almost escorted over to Darren Parker. That's when he can start making his race a reality, not deciding to make a move then up through towards the Vidal chicane and then through the Hyundai end corner. This is where you got to open up the tap and say, if you've got it, you've got it. If you've not, you've not. That's John Pat Kelly, the lap traffic that they'll have to deal with. There'll be questions on whether there's going to be a move this time by, but no, decides comfortably to lift out of it then, doesn't want to make the move, and Parker's found the pace because suddenly it's equalised at 5 seconds. Suddenly, is this a case of Parker's found the pace, or a case of the pace just isn't there in those soft tyres anymore because they've pushed too much? Has it just equalised? Well, not if you're Gronkowski. He's continuing to find 29.8s.
Yeah, no, this isn't a case of Radice losing too much time. This is a case of Parker getting those mediums up to temperature at last and stopping the bleed. Parker's last lap was a personal best. Meanwhile, Motta and Beal have just swapped places. That's over 11th. And they're still side by side, look. So Beal gets it back, unless I'm very much mistaken.
That's Gleeson.
Gleeson there. Yeah, sorry, that's Gleeson and Paula. Very similar looking cars in my defense. But yes, Gleeson, they're fighting with Paula over that 7th position. But yes,
that's going to be brave trying that. Connor Paula very nearly having a search up the inside. That could have so easily have been trouble if he'd kept the nose in. So Connor Paula's looking very, very racy here at the start of his iRacing Grand Prix Tour season. And he knows these points will add up at the end of the season, and he's done so well last season. Of course, he put up a fantastic showcase of driving that got him P6 overall in the championship, and that came with just one podium finish to his name, or a handful of podiums. And that's the move. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's Jorge Martinez. He's had enough of waiting. He knows that Radice has hit a cliff, and he's got to go with 9-lap older soft tyres than what Eduardo Radice has.
Yeah, very good. Through he goes, and that was absolutely the right time. You can see Parker just up the road, but he thought there's no point hanging around behind Radice on this straight. He had the overspeed, might as well have a turn leading. Of course, he wouldn't have done that if he had fastest lap again from Gronkowski. He's into the 1:29.7s. Martinez would not have gone for that move if he would have had to cost them both time. If he'd have had to make a silly dive bomb maneuver or a risky pass. He only did it because he was so much faster in the straight, and there would have been no point hanging around behind Eduardo Radice. It's kind of like karting. You work together until you're right up in the leading pack, and then you can scrap. There's no point scrapping when you're losing time, because then you'll never get there, and you're only going to let the winners get away.
And look at that time over this lap has already come down by 0.8 of a second there or thereabouts. Martinez is turning the screw, realizing that Radice can't get any more torque on it any longer. He's got to pick up the work and chase Darren Parker down inside 4 seconds at the line. 1:29.7 from Jorge Martinez. He has uncorked the bottle with the fastest lap of the race.
He's locked up slightly at turn 1, a little bit wide. That'll cost him maybe 1/10 of a second. But I tell you what, he's earned that with his last lap. It was over 1 second faster than Darren Parker, 1.1 pretty much. He's now 4 seconds behind the race leader. But with lap times like that, Darren Parker is going to start to sweat. Look at that. Now we go. Oh my goodness, it's like watching a cheetah chase one of the fastest gazelles. It's still up in the air. But it's hunting for sure. It's hunting time. Eduardo Radice is still quicker than Parker, even with the hindrance of Jorge Martinez having got through. There is still a difference in pace there as well. So Parker as much as he's not confirmed to be winning this race, he's also not confirmed to be second here. Keep watching this one.
Well, you have to keep in mind, as there is Jason Green having a little bit of a moment there. That's Kent Nielsen there going through up into 13th position. So that continues on. Have to remember, Radice still has the tyre advantage. So if Marquez burns it all, chasing down Darren Parker, can't find the way through, or does find the way through, he's still going to be weak to Radice, who's now just going to have to be patient in the final stages as he waits behind. That gap coming down all the while. And lest we forget as well, Gronkowski versus Lux, that gap now under 2 seconds, so that will also be on for 4th position very, very soon. Lux really knows that Gronkowski's got the bit between his teeth. Another 29.7 from Gronkowski. Lux a 30.3, lost 0.6 of a second, not for a lack of trying.
Yep, 0.6 of a second gained between these two, and about 6.5 of a second gained between Marquez and Parker. The field coming together in these late stages, and this is one of the things that I love about Grand Prix racing. There is always something to watch, even when cars are quite spread out on the circuit. Well, they're not spread out here, are they? Look at that. That was Pooler getting slightly out of shape, chasing down Gleeson. But yeah, even when there's not much going on the circuit, there's always some kind of story emerging on the timing screen, behind the scenes, and the strategic side of these races makes it exciting towards the finish every single time. Now, this is still the fight for 7th, 8th and 9th position. Gleeson has a chance to get away a little there with the slight out of shape movement from Connor Pooler. Pooler Reagan still involved, and with 14 laps to go, no one is confirmed in their positions.
No, they absolutely are not. And for Connor Pooler, it was a mistake at turn 1, just getting a little bit squirrely, trying to get the power down early. Gap at the front now is down to 2.2 seconds. All of a sudden, Jorge Marquez, he finds himself right at the apex, right at the zenith. He knows that he has got himself in the right place. And Darren Parker here has got an almost impossible challenge as Gronkowski puts the car within 1.5 seconds of Valtteri Lux with a 29.5.
Good Lord. I tell you what, when he was a second slower than that, we were praising his lap times earlier on in the race. But yeah, it seems almost confirmed that Jordan Gronkowski is going to get the fastest lap. Marquez took it away from him briefly, and Jordan was like, "Oh no, you don't!" Straight back again. And the ironic thing is that other drivers around him are setting personal bests. You know, Radice has been on a personal best, Lux on a personal best, so has Adam Webb in 6th position, but they're still nowhere near Jordan Gronkowski, because that's the pace that he has been showing throughout the course of this race. Meanwhile, the lead is down to less than 2 seconds. I tell you what, he's going to get him, isn't he? He'll have to do it on the road, so there's still an element of danger about this. But if this was a pure simulation of a race, and the cars could drive through each other or whatever, then there would be no question in anyone's mind that Darren Parker would lose the lead of this Grand Prix.
Well, he's not there yet. He's still leading this race, but 12 laps to hold off the hard-charging Jorge Marquez, the also hard-charging Eduardo Radice. Those two drivers, he'll be hoping to be a roadblock that causes Marquez and Radice to trip up over each other. Gronkowski with DRS then for the first time. This is an important move as Valtteri Lux, is he going to be powerless to stop him? Here goes Gronk down the inside. P4, what a drive by him. He's overshot it, almost contact. There, abandoned stage right, Valtteri Lux.
Now, I remember my friend who's into American football, and no, I don't mean you on this case, Jake, telling me about, is it Robert Gronkowski? Gronkowski, something like that. The guy they've nicknamed the Gronk, who is just better because he is bigger than you. Now, in Jordan Gronkowski's case, he is better because he's faster than you. No matter who you are, no matter what stage in the race you're at, Gronkowski will blow straight past you, and there will be absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So on this occasion, 4th place goes his way, and it was at the very first time of trying. Now, let's take a look at this scrap here. Marquez still gaining on Parker. Not quite as quickly now. He's into that window where he's starting to feel the effects of the dirty air of the car in front. This is why I'm very, very quick to stress that he has to get past him on the track, because it's one thing catching a kart and another thing passing it. Radice, of course, can testify to that as well. He is still following Jorge Marquez and will still fancy his chances at winning this Grand Prix. It's certainly not over yet for him either. Parker set a personal best lap that last time around as well, and still Marquez and Radice took time out of him.
Yeah, 1/10 of a second, though. That was all that was gained, but 1/10 of a second's all right. When you get inside a second, you've got a chance if you're Marquez. That's the key. He's dangling at 1.5 seconds. He needs half a second to get the use of that driver aid, the drag reduction system. He'll also be trying to keep a very close eye on his energy recovery system, Caitlin, because on those straights, he doesn't have the luxury of charging up the battery by putting it into its harvesting mode, because Eduardo Radice would attack him every single stage of the way if he wanted to. That's the difference on tyre life. Radice, 3 lap older tyres than Parker's mediums. Marquez, 9 laps older than Radice. 12 laps the difference between Marquez and Parker's tyres.
Doesn't matter. Does not matter what part of the tyre is touching the road or how much tyre they've got left, because these drivers at this point are fueled by pure determination. Gronkowski has a purple second sector. That, of course, means fastest of anyone in this race so far. This could be another fastest lap as he comes across the line this time. And you're absolutely right. Marquez and Radice both have DRS now. It is a 3-way scrap for the lead with 10 laps to go. Is there any universe where Darren Parker holds on to this victory, Jake?
Yeah, it's the one where Marquez and Radice come together. That's all he's got left for him. Gronkowski setting fastest lap after fastest lap is hoping that somebody in this top 3 runs into troubles, because that's the way he's going to pick this up. Mistake there from Darren Parker. He locks up going through the right-hand bend there, that all-important Paget Racing curve, and that has brought Marquez into the prime position. He can sense there is a chance. He can sense there is a way through in this race. Up through the Schumacher S, the chase now continues, and you certainly get that feeling that Darren Parker is just waiting for the inevitable.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, the pace Jordan Gronkowski is going right now, Parker has to make sure he doesn't lose too much time in this fight either. You know, he's not even confirmed on the podium here. So watch Marquez. This is going to be a masterclass of setting up an overtaking maneuver. He hopes, that is. Out of the final turn we go, and the number 1 driver will aim for the number 1 position. DRS wide open now on the back of both Marquez and
Here he goes.
He gains, he goes to the inside, and he goes through. Jorge Marquez will lead the race with 9 to go.
That's an important move. Now the question's going to be, can Eduardo Radice find a way through, or can Darren Parker fight back with anything that he's got left through the AMG arena? That, for Jorge Marquez, is a monstrous move in the context of this race. Having started today in 7th position, he now leads with these 9 laps to go, and he is proving that number 1 is not just there for show, it's there for dough as well. He is flying.
Yep, from 7th on the grid too. Don't forget, he did not qualify well by his standards. Now this is crucial for Eduardo Radice. He's got to get past Darren Parker within the next lap, otherwise Marquez will be gone. He's got to get through. He's got 2 DRS zones coming up pretty close by, and these could be his last chance at keeping up with Jorge Marquez, because if he is held up too much, if he does not get past Darren Parker as soon as possible, he may not get another chance at Jorge Marquez. It's already looking to get away from him. Here we go then.
Well,
up
he might
towards
just
the
need
chicane.
He might just need that DRS to come off, because at this moment in time, it's very much equal. There's not really anything that Radice can do if Parker's got his own aid to defend. He won't have it on this straight. You can see it there on the rear wing. He's got nothing, and Eduardo Radice is going to have something. He's going to move to the inside. He'll take P2 away. Darren Parker now knows that the best he can settle for is 3rd, and Radice now needs to use those tyres up and put Marquez in a little bit of jeopardy.
Isn't this amazing though, as Gronkowski does a 29-1? Look at that. Isn't it amazing? that at one point in time, Darren Parker was leading by 15 seconds. You know, well, if you count the pit stages, of course, he led by 26 seconds, but that, of course, was when Radice made his stop. But realistically, he led by 15 seconds, and that has gone away from him, which shows you just how things can change in a Grand Prix and just how important this strategy actually is. At this point in time, Parker is not necessarily going to finish on the podium, as Gronkowski takes 2 seconds out of him on that last lap, with 8 laps to go, of course. And it looks as if Marquez is not done yet. He continues to extend his advantage, and at this point in time, Radice is nowhere near the DRS range. He's still losing time. Marquez with a personal best second sector, and this could be game, set, and match now, with Marquez number 1 in the number 1 position and continuing to extend his lead ahead of Eduardo Radice and long-time leader Darren Parker.
Well, he knows how important it is to build this gap, and Radice can only put a 30.2 down on the board. It's a 30.1 by Marquez, so was only able to gain a 1/10 of a second on that last lap. That's still manageable by Radice. He's not out of this race. He just needs to find a couple 1/10 of a second, and he'll be back in the range with Jorge Marquez, and he knows he's got the tyre life to his advantage. Now, all things considered here from Darren Parker, yes, he has been struggling over the last couple of laps. Yes, that gap is coming down to Jordan Gronkowski, but that'll be the least of his concerns right now. He's just thinking about, can I stay with the 2 cars in front? And that answer is very clearly no. Those tyres are definitely not playing ball, because those mediums, you had to be on them early here today. Get the worst of the running out of them, because these soft tyres on low fuel loads are just lightning fast.
2 more seconds taken out by Jordan Gronkowski here, and I fear that it may be too little too late, but there is nothing little about the effort that he's put in today. Despite the spin, despite dropping to the back of the field, he has still somehow gained 14 positions in this race and set easily the fastest laps, not just the fastest lap of this race up until this point. But I will continue to watch his lap times, because you can now visually see the gap between Parker and Gronkowski with that long camera angle, and you can see just how much that orange car is pushing and flying through the bends. Across the start-finish line they go. The gap between the leaders, that is the top 2, is 1.8 seconds, and Marquez gains 0.2 of a second that last time around. I really do feel, as unfortunate as it might be for Radice, and as much as he gave it his absolute best shot, that this is game, set, and match with Jorge Marquez out in front.
Not yet.
Well, you say that,
I will. Not yet.
Go on then.
There's still a chance. I fully believe there's still a chance here. And Radice, yes, he lost 0.2, but he lost all those 0.2 in the final corner by running wide. That's as simple as that. He was keeping Marquez stationary, and on this lap, he has brought 2 of those 1/10 of a second that he lost last lap back again. This is not over and done with. Gronkowski, I fully expect to catch Darren Parker by the end. He is catching at an incredible scene of pace that he has shown, and Gronkowski 1 season ago was car number 20 in a field of 20. He is now car number 5 in this field of 21. But Darren Parker will look behind, and a race which looked almost destined to be handed to him on a silver plate here, Caitlin. Right now, he might not even be guaranteed champagne.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Cesare Manzato's woes have been continuing. He's just been passed by Norton Motta. So despite being up in second position at one point, he may not even be in the podium places. And there's a replay of a move. That looks like Motta, is it? Motta on Manzato. Yeah, so there we go. That's for 10th position. And there is Jordan Gronkowski, and his last lap, 1:29.3, 1.4 seconds quicker than Parker.
He is 7/10 quicker than the rest of this field in front of him at a bare minimum. He's just going to run out of laps to get there, because we are down, believe it or not, to 5 laps to go here at the Nurburgring in this season opener of the iRacing Grand Prix Tour. And that gap is now 1.2 seconds between Marquez and Radice. That gap is flying down. And this is where the nine laps of extra wear from Jorge Martinez are starting to count because Eduardo Radice turns up the wick once more and he realizes that the Italian has a date with destiny, and it happens to be with a Spaniard.
Personal best last lap from Eduardo Radice as well, so you're right not to count this out. And I have to admit, I was pretty wrong to count it off. But I guess you have to consider the possibility of mistakes as well. Not that I've seen Jorge Martinez make too many mistakes over the course of today, but I mean, we know that he did. He didn't qualify particularly well. Across the line this time around. Is the DRS open on the back? Yeah, does Radice have DRS? He very nearly did, didn't he?
No, he doesn't.
He's one
He's
second
close, but
now.
not there. Now he'll get it if he finds the next line.
Yeah, 1 second exactly was their difference between the two of them across the start-finish line. Again, it was a personal best for Radice. Personal best for Parker as well, so he sees the danger of Gronkowski continuing to gain on him. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Radice within DRS range now, and coming up to a couple of DRS zones.
Yeah, so he's got a real opportunity here to put Martinez through the ringer, and he thought he was safe when he had that gap at almost 2 seconds. But Eduardo Radice, who has not had a victory in the iRacing Grand Prix Tour, not last season, now is looking to put Martinez, arguably one of the great open Formula drivers of the 2020s, into a full state of decline at this moment. He's got the DRS, you can tell by the green light on the wheel. That will now move up to 2 when he's got it, 4 when he's got it on, and now he'll charge.
Look at this, getting closer. There's no chance up into the chicane, but he will have dragged his way right up to the gearbox of Jorge Martinez. Now watch as he goes out of this final turn. Does he get a good exit? Because that is what will enable him to make a move. They've got a little bit of traffic coming up ahead, and you've got to be careful as well that that doesn't give Martinez the DRS. It's only Radice with the wing wide open, and he takes a little jink into Martinez's mirrors just to show him that he's there, make him a little unsettled. And this is the first seeded driver in this series versus the 11th seeded driver. And yet it looks like two world champions scrapping for dominance and through. And that's Paula on... Yes, Paula on Webb.
Yep, so this is going on as well on the latter stage of the top 10. 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Paul O'Regan on the back of this group. So now Connor Paula's going to start to try and defend here. He's now going to have to start looking at every position. And Adam Gleeson, who's been right in the middle of this, he'll be the most frustrated out there. He'll look to the outside, it's not there. Paul O'Regan searches.
Fantastic stuff, and very clean racing too. I am very much touching wood as I'm saying that. But that's been one of the things that's impressed me the most about this particular race and this particular field of drivers. More on the gaps. My goodness, Radice was less than half a second behind Martinez through that last sector, through the second sector, and we've definitely got to keep an eye. And actually, you can see that on the split, the top screen there. That is Martinez versus Radice. Meanwhile, Gronkowski and Parker now just 4 seconds apart as well. With 3 laps to go, and out of the final turn, there's a chance here, Jake.
There is absolutely a chance, but can Eduardo Radice get close enough? Traffic stays out of the way. That's Edward Apari there. Radice angling to that inside again. It's not there on lap 59. This might just have to come down to the final lap of this race. If Eduardo Radice is to find the pass on Martinez, this has been what the entire opener of this championship has been leading itself up to. Martinez, who has been so good from 7th, and Radice, who has been so quiet in this race, now suddenly making some noise.
Goodness me, we're coming up to the white flag, and Jorge Martinez and Eduardo Radice are no closer to settling this one. Gronkowski again took 2 seconds out of Darren Parker. That's going to come down to the last lap as well, that fight for 3rd position. And I am absolutely thrilled by the first race that I've ever seen live from the Grand Prix Tour. This has been quite a show, and my goodness, are we about to get a grandstand finish. And what a better place than the circuit with probably the most grandstands of anywhere in the world. Oh, and a little mistake from Radice. He kicked up the gravel on the exit of the corner there, and that could cost him some vital... Oh, he's taking a look still. He's still right on the back of Martinez, and the last lap is coming up.
Marquez, I think, was trying to play cute. I think he was trying to decide whether he wanted that position or not so he could get the DRS back. It's worked. He's got 0.6 of a second here as they now go on to the final lap. This is the best place to get it done if you're Eduardo Radiz. And I don't think he's close enough here. He tries to throw something down the inside as close as he can. He locks up and he can't quite find it. Has he now fallen outside of range to Jorge Marquez here at the Nurburgring on the final lap? That gap extends out as 0.8 of a second. Marquez has used every trick in the book to try and find a look, as meanwhile, further back down the group, Webb, Pula, Gleason, O'Regan continues on. Marquez still keeps himself in there. There's the gap as well on the bottom of your screen to third. It's 1.5 seconds for Gronkowski on the final lap of this race. He might have one DRS opening opportunity to make that happen. But Marquez, 0.9 of a second, is just out of reach, agonizingly out of reach for Eduardo Radiz, who's got half a lap to bring it all back together. Up through the Schumacher S, he might be relying on a mistake. Marquez has thrown the kitchen sink at this, trying to get through. Well, there is DRS, just the final chance of hope for Radiz. It's going to have to be a Hail Mary here as he gets himself over towards that Vidal chicane, but he is way too far back. And now just the Hyundai end curve remains here for Jorge Marquez, who started 7th on the grid and has proven to the world he means business and will win at the Nurburgring.
Amazing race. Very well done from Marquez. And here comes Darren Parker. He will just hold on to 3rd position. A well-deserved podium from Parker there. Gronkowski, very, very well done to finish 4th, despite everything he went through earlier on in this race. On the last lap, there's been quite a scrap as well between Paula, Gleason, Reagan and Webb. I think something happened to Webb at one point because he dropped a couple of positions. So even that was not confirmed until right up until the end. To be honest, it's still not over. Look at this. We got Motta coming through. Motta's going to get him. So Webb, I think, might have damage here.
Oh, no, he's gone deep.
Potentially. Goes deep. Webb and Motta comes back to him on the exit.
They're all there. They're all tripping over each other here. And this is where the chance is going to come into play. Webb's just going to hold on to that 9th place, desperately scrabbling. Motta will take the final point. But that was all about contact on the final lap starting between Webb and Pula out there. So it was even before that where the contact brought itself in. There was secondary contact there with Gleason. And he takes the David Coulthard line. Absolutely having to try and rally cross his way over. But my word, what a result for Jorge Marquez. That is going down in the pantheon of sim racing as an all-time classic, as it pretty much swayed and turned at every single moment. Confirmation, unofficial results then up on your screen. Jorge Marquez gets it done by 0.8 of a second. The drama's heading on to that last lap pretty much set the tone for it. Eduardo Radiz taking second. Darren Parker, who led the majority of this race here today, his alternate strategy does not pay off, and he can only manage to take 3rd overall. Jordan Gronkowski, what a recovery from damage early on, having to convert to a 2-stop strategy. He finds himself with 4th after purple lap after purple lap. Walter Lux finishing off in 5th with Connor Pula in 6th position. He manages to finish ahead of Adam Gleason 7th with Paul O'Regan in 8th. Adam Webb will be demoted down to 9th, just finishing ahead of Norton Motta, the Brazilian, rounding out the top 10. On the other side of the page, Cesare Manzato, who spent a long time inside that top 10, will unfortunately not score championship points for the SimSpeed Championship today. He finishes 11th with Cedric Beale and Kent Nielsen there, 12th and 13th. It's Christian Marcelli in 14th with Jason Green 15th. Anthony Catt would finish 16th, not the day that he would want, with Edward Apari, the first of the drivers to lap down. Along with John Pat Kelly and Andrew Brown, the retirees today, Timothy Vaughan would lose out with a hefty bit of contact then at the halfway stage of this race, ending his day with no rear wing and no rear suspension to speak of. And finally, Florian Kammeyer with a disconnection early on inside the opening 4 laps, finding his race over and done with in the early stages. Well, what an incredible start to the iRacing Grand Prix Tour. It's proven that it is absolutely everything and then some. And Caitlin, we do it all again 7 days from now, March 8th. We're heading to Virginia International Raceway.
Absolutely, we are, Jake. I'm so excited for that. And it's another circuit that we very rarely see Grand Prix racing on. So I honestly will not want to miss that for the world. So I'd like to say a massive thank you, Jake, for inviting me to this this event. I'm so glad I saw it, just in general, whether I'm commentating or not. That was a race for the ages. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to Jay Kennedy, our streamer, for helping me get set up in this one, and for providing you with all of the sights and sounds and graphics, of course, that you saw throughout the course of this race. And then, of course, the drivers, because boy, did they put on a show.
They put on an amazing showcase, and it all happens again 7 days from now. The iRacing Grand Prix Tour never truly stops, and as it opens up again, we're in for an absolute showcase. Jorge Martinez puts himself then as the #1 stamp, trying to make sure that this championship is his for the making. But there are so many drivers up and down the order who can make a claim. Jordan Gronkowski showed pace today. Radice has absolutely soared in pace from one season to the next. Darren Parker also proving that he wants to make a point. And what about Jacob Reed, who wasn't here today, of course, due to disconnection issues before getting into server? He's hoping to start his season off next time out. And who knows, this could be anybody's. The iRacing Grand Prix Tour will see you at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, 7 days from now.